Hi, my name is Aaron F. Ross. Welcome to the latest Digital Arts Guild Maya tutorial on the multi-part model, which is this sofa. We're going to build all the parts of the sofa using Maya polygon tools. For example, things like extrude or multi-cut. We'll look at the sculpt tool and soft selection. But basically, we're going to take an overview of the Maya polygon tools. If you want to learn about all of the tools in Maya and really go deep, then you should probably spend some time on lynda.com, which has a lot of tutorials that are more thorough, that cover more of the interface. Here, we're more focused on the pipeline and learning some of the techniques of polygon modeling. We're also going to take a look at UV unwrapping. That'll introduce you to how to lay out UV coordinates or texture coordinates in order to achieve certain effects, such as, for example, the fabric running around the cushion or being sewn together at certain places on the frame. That's an overview of the learning outcomes for this lesson. Let's go ahead and begin. As always, we begin in Maya by creating a project folder. Go to the File menu and choose Project Window. It's currently set to the current user's default Maya project. You can see default here. Let's create a new one, and I'm going to call it Multi-Part Model Project. And I'll just leave it in the default location in the current user's Documents folder. Click Accept. We have a few source images for this lesson, including some textures as well as some image planes. We need to put those into our project now. I'll minimize Maya. You can download the images from digitalartsguild.com. Here I've got them unzipped and placed on my desktop. I want to copy them into the current project, and that'll be found under Current User, Documents, Maya, Projects, and here it is, Multi-Part Model Project. I want to drop these into source images. Select those, and then copy. In this case, I'll just right-click and choose Copy, and then go over here and right-click and paste into the current project source images. All right, we've got our asset management done. I can go back to Maya. Let's quickly set up our units and grid. Windows, Settings, Preferences, Preferences. Settings should be set to centimeter for the linear working units. And for the grid, I want a larger metric scale grid. Go into Display Grid Options. Set the extents of the grid to 200 centimeters from center to edge. I'll create a grid line every 100 centimeters and subdivide by 10. That means I'll have a major grid line every meter and then a subdivision line every 1/10 of a meter. I can also make the grid lines a different color and turn on numbers on the axes. Click Apply and Close. Dolly back with the mouse wheel, and now I've got some grid numbers. Change the background with Alt-B. Just get a light gray background, make it easier to see what we're doing. We've got our layout done, and now we can place some image planes that I've created. The first one will be for the front view. And we can do that directly in the perspective view here, just by going up into Create, Free Image Plane. And now we have a tiny little square there. In the channel box, you'll see a whole bunch of attributes that you can adjust. I would recommend skipping the channel box and going directly to the attribute editor. It's going to be much easier for you to see what you're doing, and you'll have access to the correct attributes. Control A to open the attribute editor. And what do we have here? We've got image plane shape. We want to rename it first of all. And we could do that from the transform node is the best way. That'll also rename the shape node. I'll call this image plane front. Press enter, and you'll see the shape node got renamed to image plane front shape. Okay, back to that shape node. Next, we'll browse for the image. Go down here and click on image name. Click on that browse button, and it takes us to our current project source images. And here it is, image plane front. And you'll notice, by the way, that it has transparency. I built that into these documents. Click open. And if we press F in Maya, give Maya the main focus and press the F key, we can zoom in on that, frame it. All right, great. So there's our first image. We need to make it large enough. Scroll down in the attribute editor. Keep going down to Placement Extras. This isn't really an extra, so I'm not sure why it's called extras, because this is very key here. The width and height. You'll see this switch that says Maintain Pick Aspect Ratio. When that's on, the shape of the image plane will always conform to the shape of the image or the bitmap on your disk. And because of that, when you change one of the values here, the other will automatically update. I know that my canvas is 220 centimeters wide. I'm going to enter that value, 220, and press enter. And you'll see height also changed to 220. All of my image planes are squares, and that just makes my life a lot simpler. Dolly back a bit. So there's my first one. We can play around with some stuff. If we go back up here, you'll see color gain, that's the brightness. Color offset is the black point. So we can take all the black lines and make them white. Alpha gain is the transparency. Let's bring that down to 0.5. All right, we've got our front image plane in. To add our top and side views, we need to do those from the orthographic cameras. Give Maya the focus and tap the space bar. Dolly back in the top view so we can see our object is 220 centimeters wide. Dolly back in the front view and also the side view. And create our next image plane. This is now done from the View menu. View, Image Plane, Import Image. That's for the top and side panels. And this is our top view here. Click Open. And now I've got a top view, but it's very small, as we can see. Once again, we'll need to go into Placement Extras. Scroll down, set that to 220. We can dolly back a bit so we can see that it's now 220 centimeters wide. We need to change its name, but right now we're looking at its shape node name. We need to get to its transform node. If you click off the object and back on it again, then you'll have access to the transform node. And I want to name it here, Image Plane Top. Cool, so we have Image Plane Front and Image Plane Top. Now I've got the side. View, Image Plane, Import Image, and grab the side view. Click Open. Once again, resize it, set its width to 220. And then we want to rename it, so click off of it and click back on it. And we'll call it Image Plane Side. Now we could leave it at this right now, but there's a couple things we can do to clean this up and make it easier to work. Due to a quirk of how Maya evolved over time, we end up seeing these orthographic cameras here in the view, and we don't actually want to see those. We can hide them. Display, hide cameras. We also probably want to move the image planes away from center. For example, I can grab the side view and use the move tool to push it out in X. So let's say -200. Same thing with the front view, maybe push it backward. And that would be in -Z here. We want to be as moving it upward as seen in the top view. So here in -Z, maybe make that -200. And then this view, we can probably leave where it is. If we want, we can move it down a little bit, but it's probably best to just leave it flat on the ground. So I'm going to undo that with the Z key. And then we do want to move the front and side views up a bit so that they're flush with the floor. As you can see here, it needs to go up, looks like 50 centimeters. So I can select both of those and set Translate Y to 50. And now it's actually on the floor, as we can see, in both the front and side panels. Now we can model the sofa without being distracted by the image planes being right on top of it. If we want to, we can play around with this a little bit more, change up its color, for example. Select the side view, go back to the attribute editor, Control A, go to the shape node, back up at the top, bring the alpha gain down to 0.5, and also we can have fun with these by tinting them. I'll set the alpha on this bottom as well, set that to 0.5. Since they're white, we can just drop any color into this color gain here and affect their colors directly. For example, maybe I want this top view to be green to correspond with the y-axis, which is the vertical axis. Click on color gain and choose green. There it is. Maybe I'll reduce its saturation a bit. You don't want to have fighting with other parts of the interface. So I'll bring that saturation down to about half. So that's just a fun thing we can do. We can do the same with this one. That would be blue for the z-axis, and then bring its saturation down. And over here, this would be the x-axis, or red. Cool. And last thing we want to do with these, since they're now in position, is to put them onto a display layer. And display layers are found down here below the channel box. We got different types of layers: display, render, and animation. Display layers control objects' display both in the render and in the viewport. I'll just put all of these onto their own layer and then make it so that they can't be directly clicked on in the viewport anymore, so we can't accidentally move them. I'll select all three, and under Layers, click the button that says Create a new layer and assign selected objects. It's the icon on the far right. Now they're placed into Layer 1, and I've got a V here, which is Visibility. I can turn their visibility on and off. I want to rename that, double-click it, and call it Image Plane Layer. In addition to visibility, layers allow us to template and reference objects. Templating means to make the object display in wireframe and not render. And you do that by clicking this empty button here. When you see a T, now we don't have images anymore. All we have are these rectangles. And these will not render. So templated objects will be always drawn in wireframe and will not render. If we click again here, then that makes the objects referenced. Referenced objects will render and will display in the viewport, but cannot be directly selected. If I click off and then try to reselect one of these, I cannot do that any longer. And since I can't select it, that means I can't accidentally move it. I've essentially frozen these. If I need to select them, of course, I can go back to the outliner and do that. Window outliner. And I can select them from here. Awesome. We've got our layout set up and our image planes in place. We're ready to save out our first version of the scene. Go up into the File menu and choose Save Scene As. And in our current project Scenes, we'll save an ASCII file. We'll call it sofa.0001.ma in order to set it up for increment and save. Click Save As. And as you can see down here in our command response line, we've saved out sofa.0001.ma.